So we have been in this project now for a couple days, and it's pretty cool because as we've removed things, we're able to see kind of the history of the different generations of wiring in this house. This is an era of wiring, usually between the 40s and 50s. It's a more modern form of cable, as we call it, but it doesn't have a ground wire. And that was pretty common in the 40s and 50s. The house was built in, I think, 1900 is what they said. So we know that this was added. What's interesting about that, it's like the house, it runs all throughout the house. It's loose. So it was fished from the attic space down to here. And all these boxes were installed where they were screwed to the wood lathe. So it was definitely an after fact, an afterthought. So what we think is probably that the house was renovated in the 40s or 50s, and they added all of these ceiling lights on this whole floor. It would be pretty common in the 1900s for the house to be wired with knob and tube wiring. And at that point, I mean, you look at a bathroom like this is way more modern than what we would have then. Back then, the most common bathroom light would have been a vanity light above the sink, and they usually had a little switch right on them and a little outlet right on them. So they would just be hardwired. So they probably originally in this bathroom would not have been an overhead light, would not have been a switch here. Definitely would not have been an outlet. So what we have here, we look at this generation of wiring. Between the box that was here and this type, it has a ground, but it's an undersized ground, so we can tell that's probably 70s or 80s. But so it's cool because you can start to see the different generations of wiring in a house like this. This, unfortunately, both of these look newer, but that's where it's deceiving because they go up into the attic and then they splice onto the original form of wiring from the early 1900s. But you can start to see the decades kind of add up. In this area, we're in downtown Frederick, and I've worked in so many of these homes. There was, with every economic boom, the 50s after World War II, and then the 80s especially, people were spending lots of money to improve the house. So it's like almost every one of these downtown Frederick houses I've been into were renovated in the 80s and early 90s. And it was just real common to add wiring they needed to without going above and beyond, and then just coat everything in a new form of drywall. It gives them a nice clean surface, but they tend to just kind of cover everything else up. So we see here, I don't know if you can get the angle, but we actually have new drywall here, and then just right behind it is plaster. So they just went right over top of the plaster. There's your wood lathe, and there's your plaster. Drywall just right on top of it. So they didn't even bother to demo it, they just went right over it. And so you start to see kind of layers of history in these houses. You can even see, maybe not there, this is old wallpaper. They just left it right there and went over top of it.